Hello and welcome to Crypto Finder TV. I'm your host Chris Dare. You're watching video games and the blockchain, where we discuss everything that's happening in the world between blockchain, the cryptocurrency technology, and video gaming, my favourite hobby in the world. We've got another massive show for you today. We're going to be talking about the TRON Arcade. We're going to be talking about Enjin reaching 34 titles in its Enjin Multiverse. We've got 3 brand new games to take you through, and also Flappy Bird's back. Who would have thought that, hey? The most addictive game from 2014, or January 2014. Anyway, so what we usually do here on the show is go through 5 of the biggest news pieces we've come across during the week. We're going to do the same thing this week, starting with the TRON Arcade. Now, surely you've heard of TRON, the cryptocurrency. It's one of the top 10 cryptocurrencies by market cap at the moment. It's always had a little bit of skepticism around it because Justin Sun, the kind of CEO behind it, is famed for pumping the coin's tires pretty hard on social media, but they are continually seeming to do some really interesting and good things. Now, the TRON Arcade is one of those things that has come out, and it's building, it's getting some pretty good momentum. So what is it? What is the TRON Arcade? Now, to start off with, it's a marketing mistake, because if you go to Google and you search the TRON Arcade, all you get is old school arcade games from TRON the movie, making it a little bit hard to find the information you want if you're just a kind of curious observer trying to learn more. But outside that, it's got a lot going for it. It's a $100 million US game development fund, is the TRON Arcade. Now, this has been formed with 3 main goals in mind. The first is to kind of boost the mass adoption of crypto. I think most people are of the belief that video gaming is the medium which has the best chance of getting crypto into the mainstream space. To build a community, obviously, around TRON, but also around the games that are coming through the TRON Arcade, and then to align more developers with TRON, the blockchain, the crypto, and everything that they're doing over there. A lot of the developers who have moved to the TRON Arcade have spoken about it being cheaper and faster than Ethereum, which is obviously a benefit to the people who are building in this space. So there's been quite a number of games getting added to the TRON Arcade, or at least been signed up to the arcade. I assume therefore accessing this fund over the last month or so. I've got a little list here I'm going to read out to you. The most recent is Crypto Dungeons, which is like a Zelda-like RPG. We've got Zero X Warriors, which I spoke about on the show before. I've got a little video for that at the end of this news segment to show you. It's kind of a strategy RPG. We've got Tron Goo, which is previously EtherGoo when it was on Ethereum. It's now on Tron, so it's now Tron Goo. It's kind of like, I don't know if they're doing really a sequel or a bit more of a reimagining of it to align it with Tron, but it's like a management sim. You've got Lordless, which is a fantasy collectible geography-based game where you're kind of collecting parts of the geography. And we've got Epic Dragons, which is a battle game. Blockchain Cuties, which is a collectibles in the Crypto Kitties vein, and Ever Dragons, which is like a mini-games-based experience. So all of those titles are now part of the TRON Arcade. So it's not quite the Enjin Multiverse yet, but it's definitely building up to something. It's definitely starting to get a bit of momentum around it and starting to attract some developers, which is interesting. And now around this, TRON has been announcing other initiatives that it's getting involved with. It's partnered with Cocos BCX, which is something we have spoken about before. This is a Chinese-based game development platform, kind of like a Unity style thing, but more mobile focused. It's been, I believe, some of the guys from Rovio who worked on Angry Birds are behind it. It's Chinese, so it's not that obvious to us, or that, I guess, in our face in the Western markets as it is over there with that community, but obviously you don't have to be told about how big that potential audience is over there. So a really good thing for TRON to align itself with, to gather a bit of momentum around the TRON Arcade while it's doing, get these games some sales and these developers some revenue. On top of that, they've got a memorandum of understanding with the Korean Mobile Game Association. Korea, obviously another massive market for cryptocurrency, but also a massive market for gaming, especially online competitive gaming. So again, a good move by TRON, aligning themselves with some markets which have the potential to really help the TRON Arcade build itself and get better noticed. And get better noticed. So yeah, it's clear that TRON wants to build out the Asian market and then build out from there, hopefully into the Western market, where we'll start to see more games that are coming through this service released to us here. I'm going to end this little news piece with a little show of Zero X Warriors, which is one of the more recent announcements of a TRON Arcade game. It has already been available for a while elsewhere. We have spoken about it before, but it's a really nice looking game built on the blockchain. Check it out. There you go, that's what TRON Arcade's up to, games like that. Great initiative, hope it keeps pushing forward. Okay, on to our second news piece for today. I'm really excited about this one. Unrailed, just announced, brand new game. You know, sometimes the simplest ideas are kind of the best. So in this scenario, imagine there's this train and it's constantly moving, and if you can't build the track just in front of it, so it can continue to travel along this this world, it's going to fall off the rails and become unrailed. I've been trying to think of kind of the type of action stars which would be in a movie called Unrailed. And, you know, you've got your Steven Seagals, Jason Statham perhaps, Liam Neeson, Wesley Snipes of course. Wesley Snipes would be in a movie called Unrailed any day of the week. But outside that, there's nothing to do with those types of action stars in this type of game. It's very different from that, as you can see from the screenshot right there. Now this is developed by a developer called Enjin Multiverse. Great name, I love it. These guys are based out of Switzerland, so I'm assuming they're powered by cheese and chocolate. They're graduates, recent graduates of one of the big colleges there, so a young team, first title, working on a great idea. It's been picked up by Dalek Entertainment, who you've probably heard of, but none of their games, they've released a lot of games over the last decade, but none of them are really household names, but obviously that's a bigger distribution arm for these guys, someone who's been there and done it, so that's a good pickup for Indoor Astronaut and his title. So what are they calling it? They're calling it a couch co-op a couch co-op time management game, which is a really interesting way of putting it. I'd call it Lemmings on a train. It's got elements of roguelike to it, right? So this is a procedurally generated world that you're going through, as you can see from the visual style and the screenshot, a little bit Minecraft, a little bit pixelated like that, which I've come to expect from these procedurally generated indie developed games. There's different biomes involved here. There's weather effects I've seen in some of the footage, like snow falling, mist, things like that come into play. And you kind of, as this track goes through, you've got this randomly generated stuff there, and you've got to try and make sure the track can get around obstacles, over cliffs, through various environmental issues like rivers and lakes and piles of rock and various things like that, and you've got to weave your way through that. On the way, you've got to gather resources because you've got to build this train track as you're going. So you're kind of harvesting, trying to get wood, trying to get iron. Interestingly, there's a part of the train which does all that crafting for you. So you've got to kind of go out away from the train, harvest some resources, come back, build it into the railroad tracks right there, then go put those at the front, then go out and get some more and do that again and kind of get into that little bit of a loop there. On top of that, you can also use the resources to upgrade the train and the various abilities. They haven't explained so far what those abilities are like, but when you link back to the old Lemmings games and all the different kind of ways you could get the Lemmings to do things like build ladders, build bridges, put little halts, slow down times, things like that, umbrellas. So whether they implement things like that, I'd like to see that. I think that'd be pretty cool. Just kind of those things you can kind of maybe get something a little ability to put the train on that brakes for a little bit, get you a little bit further ahead when things get hectic. There's also other kind of things you have to manage, like the train can catch on fire, so you might have to go and get some water onto it to kind of cool the flames down a little bit for a while. So lots of little cool things like this. Plenty of really great, well thought out ideas there. There's also encounters. So there's going to be NPCs you're going to come across. I've seen a couple of stations based in the game. So you come across these, you've got to deal with these NPC encounters to try and, I guess, negotiate pushing the track further. That's kind of the idea that I've got from it. But on top of that, there's also monsters in the world, some like things like werewolves and things like that, which are kind of a bit fantasy, but also like cows and sheep and things that you've got to deal with. So whether you've got to plough through a herd of cows, you're going to have to move them out of the way first, and you're going to have to fight off these more sinister encounters that you come across. So plenty going on, and because there's plenty going on, you better hope it's co-op, and it is 4-player co-op. And you're going to have to be a lot of communication here. People are going to have roles and tasks that they're going to have to fulfill out. So from what I've seen from the footage so far, and just the way that they've laid out the features for this game, I'm really interested in how it's going to play as a co-op experience, kind of like Overcooked, I guess, in a way, where you're going to have to be working together and managing these different type of scenarios, and people are running around busy trying to help each other out, but also trying to maintain their particular task. It looks like a hell of a lot of fun. I've got a screenshot I'm just going to show you here, which shows you some of the features we just spoke about. So you can see the train motoring along on the track up there. You can see the kind of little water hazard. You've got a red, a yellow, a black and a green player there, so 4 players working out. A couple look like they're off harvesting off. The green guy looks like he's hacking through the rock trying to clear some space. Yellow is going to have to try and build a bridge here to get over that water or try and go around it. Brown's obviously getting some more resources. They're all working together. You can see a station at the top there, so I don't know if the train's going to stop at that station and give them a bit of extra time. But once they get past this little space here, other than the 2 cows, or camels, or whatever the hell that is, and they're approaching, they're going to have to get around these trees. They've got a hell of a water crossing to get through there. So hopefully you have to gather some different resources to build the bridge to make that a bit more challenging. I guess they could have gone the top way, but they've chosen not to. But as you can see, like it's a fun looking game. So it's built on the blockchain. This much we know. However, none of the details about how the blockchain functionality were brought into this game have been revealed to yet. So a couple of ideas. It can be about tracking the procedurally generated worlds. So maybe creating an opportunity for people to have a really good experience and pass on a world that was procedurally generated for them. Perhaps for high score tracking as well. They're just going to use the blockchain to track the high scores and maybe allow for some sort of competitive leaderboards between various teams of players who have gone and played the game. Will there be mining in the background or something like that? Is that how they're going to implement it? I mean, it's obviously it's a time management game in many ways. It's going to be low intensity on the computers that it's running on, so potentially it could be mining in the background should you so choose. And maybe there's various like resources and abilities that you can actually be collected and traded. So maybe if you've played the game and you've collected a stack of wood and stuff like that, maybe you have the capacity to trade that wood with other players. I don't know how it's going to work out, but there's just some ideas for you. The game is going to be on PC, at least at the start. Early access is coming in our winter southern hemisphere, your summer in the northern hemisphere. And I've got a bit of gameplay footage to show you as well, which is good. But like I said, Unrailed by Indoor Astronaut, definitely an interesting looking title, and right up there with one of the indie games I'm most excited about in 2019. Check out the game. So there you go, that's Unrailed by Indoor Astronaut, and tell me that doesn't look fun. Like that, as a co-op experience in particular, that looks like a lot of fun to me. I wonder how far people will get. That was at 100 meters in that trailer. I don't know if you spotted, there's a little distance measure on the bottom. Okay, on to News Story 3, and yeah, it's Enjin again. They're kind of like Fortnite, these guys. It's just constantly something every single week that you need to talk about with Enjin. Now, Enjin Multiverse has received yet another game. If you haven't caught any of our previous pieces about the Enjin Multiverse, the Enjin is this blockchain software development kit creator. They've created a wallet. They've created a tokenized asset creator. And they've got all this stuff going on to basically put a network of support around developers. Then they've provided this Enjin Multiverse concept, which allows the developers that are building their games using Enjin Coin or the Enjin SDK to actually communicate with each other in really interesting ways. I like to liken it to amiibos in that if you're part of the Enjin Multiverse, then one game can have items unlocked in another game based on that kind of token being transferred across. So in Amiibo, you kind of put the thing on your Switch and unlock a particular ability or a sword. In this game, you might take an item out of one game, transfer it into another game, and it will take on properties that are relevant to that game, but bring it into a new world. Really neat idea. Unbelievably, that is now up to 34 titles. Which is incredibly impressive and seemingly growing every other week. The latest one that's come across my desk is Containment Corps, which you can see a screenshot of right there. Now this has been made by Nimbus Interactive. I looked them up. They're from Bangkok, of all places, and have not had any game experience that I can see in the past. They seem to have built more corporate style interactive experiences. So this, I'm going to call this a first title at this stage. The game is a mix of first-person shooter and tower defense, right? So your goal is to keep your energy base working and keep all the enemies from getting in there and destroying the joint. It's a co-op based experience, so you're working with various types of teams. You can set up kind of various types of contraptions to try and hold them back. Otherwise, you're shooting them with this laser bow. And I'll show you some gameplay at the end of this news piece so you can see what it's like. It's in early access at the moment, but it's a very early access, as you'll see. There's multiple character types. They appear to have various abilities. But they all have the main weapon, which is the laser blow. There's various types of perks you can get as you level up. So I get the impression that as you go through a particular round, you will level up during that round, and as you level up, you'll unlock various perks, Call of Duty style experience there. There are various bases. I've seen a couple of different types of bases and types of environments, so hopefully there's a bit of variation there. They're going to have to keep these bases quite varied in order to make the strategies really interesting consistently. Perhaps even a bit of random generation there. I'm not sure, that hasn't been said, but that's potentially something that could be quite beneficial. It's got Tron-like visual style, as you can see. Tron the movie, not Tron the cryptocurrency. And how it use Enjin, we're not quite sure yet. The game is already available as early access before this Enjin announcement, so they're now taking Enjin and then assimilating it into the game. They've brought up three things. They've brought up community trading, tokenized rewards, and item scarcity as the three things that they're most excited about activating in their game using the Enjin SDK. Very early days, as I was saying, if you ask me. A bit one-dimensional at the moment. Definitely going to want to see some greater variety in the weapons and monsters, some more use of the tower defense side of things, setting up various types of like turrets, missile silos, defense mechanisms, traps, things like that. You can go outside your base while the waves are coming in, so hopefully you can go out there and set some booby traps and try and take down waves early in advance. But the good news is they've got Enjin on board now. It could be a catalyst. They're now involved in a community that has already got quite a following. There's a lot of other developers in there. They're all helping each other. You know about one game, you know about all the games. They could have some really interesting crossovers with some of the other titles as well. So they've taken the next step to getting a bit more interest and a bit more excitement generated around the game. Like I said, definitely needs a bit of work, but we do have some gameplay footage for you to check out to see what you think. And if you want to, you can jump on Steam right now and give it a whirl for yourself. Check it out. This is Containment Corps. There you go, that's Containment Corps by Nimbus Interactive in early access at the moment, and I'd say with this Enjin edition, probably a bit of a delay before the full release now as they implement that into the game. Okay, on to our fourth news story, and I'm really interested with this game. This is called, just had a blank there, CryptoAssault is the name of this game. And it's kind of like a Command & Conquer style experience. It's another game we're seeing in the crypto space from a developer without a name. You know, geez, this pisses me off. Anyway, I looked into the terms of use and found the name Rogue Nations in there. So I'm assuming the developer's name is Rogue Nations. They're based out of San Fran, and they are releasing this on PC at the moment. Now, this has got some super interesting ideas. The world map for this is a giant circle. Right, so the actual land that this game unfolds in is a big circle. Within this are thousands of players, so it's like a multi MMO style experience. In order to play, you first go and you buy your units. There's a whole bunch of units you can get, like tanks, mech warrior looking things, flying things. all these types of units, and you can buy them as single units, or there's various sort of squadron packs and various ways that you can get these boxes full of units. And you play these units into this world. Units can be combined in different ways. So if you combine units together, they become more powerful. So that's an option available to you, depending on how much strategy you want to take. Now, each of these units is unique. It's a unique tokenized item, but don't worry, if it gets destroyed in the world, it just goes back into your inventory. You don't lose it forever, which is definitely a good play. I think people get very frustrated if they ran the risk of their tank never coming back. Units can be they can be used to mine resources as well. So this is part of this gameplay experience where things get very, very interesting indeed. So each unit owns a piece of land. So when you have a unit and you put it into the world, it owns the piece of land around it, the circle around it, right? And the more units you have in this land, the more units you have in the game, the more bits of land you own. Now at the end of each day, they will split up the Ethereum pool and divvy up the dividends between the players based on the land that they own, right? So that's the first part of this game that I find really interesting. So if you've got 20 units in there and each of these units own a small bit of land, then you get 20 times that little bit of land, and therefore you will get a bigger dividend, a 20 times dividend of what you'd have if you had one unit. Now, the closer you get to the center of this circle, the more valuable the land becomes. And the more powerful your units, so the more you combine together, the bigger the land that you own. So the idea is to kind of create a little bit of space that you own and defend it, but then kind of also try and get more towards this center. It has this really interesting concept of moving players that are powerful towards the center zone, kind of like the Eye of the Storm in Fortnite or something like that. It's going to concentrate. It's going to open up all these strategy options about whether you populate the outer ring with weaker forces, or whether you drive into the more powerful stuff and form a big group. On top of this, you can also mine the resources. It adds to this as well, because while your unit is mining the resources, they're not defended. So you kind of got this retreat, defend style scenario here. Do you pull your forces back, try and get some more resources, use these to upgrade your bases, use these to upgrade your units so they become more powerful before trying to drive forward. While you're doing that, is someone else seeing you doing that, and they're going to come in and attack your space, try and knock off a few of your units and take over that land. It's a really, really interesting approach to the game, this circle map experience. And I'm fascinated by it. I think it's really, really interesting when you've got thousands of players moving around this world at the same time. It's going to be really, really intriguing to see how it plays. The things that I'm less sure about is that you can only move a unit once every 3 hours. So if and each unit obviously has a certain amount of space that can move in your kind of classic turn-based scenario. This seems like a long wait to me. So if you come in there, do you need to kind of have 3 hours worth of troops to move? So by the time you've kind of done the strategy for all of your troops, you've rolled back around to the front again? Or am I misreading this? Is this 3 in-game hours, not 3 kind of real-world hours? Is there a different type of time frame there? And what's the go if there's 1,000 people in this world moving at a time? They use the word thousands of people in this world moving it all around the same time. Everyone's on different 3-hour stints. It's going to be quite interesting to see how that plays out. Definitely from the video footage, it looks like people are kind of moving in real time, but then moving a unit and waiting and moving a unit and waiting. It's going to be quite interesting to work out how you can define your strategy when you can't see every movement at once in place. So, like I said, it's pretty much an experience I can't remember ever seeing in a video game world before. So, anyway, lots and lots of really interesting things going on in this game. And how it'll end up playing out when there's thousands of people involved is definitely something to keep an eye on. This could be a precursor to an expansion of the real-time strategy genre in ways we haven't seen before, and I'm definitely interested in seeing how it plays out. Also, the idea that you're going to be rewarded with actual real money based on your skills within the game, your ability to think outside the box above everyone else. Also very, very interesting. I love the concept. I just hope it really works. So anyway, check out some gameplay footage here, just a short snippet of how it plays, and apply it to everything I've just said, and let us know if you're excited. There you go. Interesting, right? Looking good. Okay, on to our final news story for the day, and who needs more Flappy Birds in their life? Probably no one, but anyway, Flappy Birds has come back. Now, back in May 2013, this game came out and no one really cared about it. Then all of a sudden, in January 2013, it just went bird-shit crazy and everyone was on it for about 3 or 4 weeks. About 5 seconds after the Android version came out, the creator, Dong Nguyen, he freaked out and couldn't sleep because people were getting too addicted to it. And he was so upset by that, he pulled the game from sale. At the time, it was earning about $50,000 a day through this game. So depending on your perspective, he's either just stand-up dude or a complete idiot. But anyway, he pulled the game from sale and it's pretty much disappeared from cultural thinking, community thought, getting swallowed up by the likes of Pokemon Go, Hearthstone and everything that's come since. Anyway, out of the blue, it's back, the EOS blockchain. The EOS has released it. It's a browser-based experience. You can go in there and play it right now. They're calling it free to play. I can't really see how it's free to play. It's more like free to try. The gameplay remains the same. So we're talking about just clicking or tapping and your bird goes up and down as it side scrolls through these Mario style pipes that are coming up and down, moving about, trying to kill you, and it's frustrating as hell and you can't really get that far, but for some reason you try again and again and again. Like Doodle Jump, everyone remember that one? That was a good one. So how's it using the blockchain? It's got some intriguing uses of the blockchain here. You buy birds. So you can, as soon as you sign up, you get, I think, 1 free bird or 2 free birds to try. Otherwise, you need to buy birds with crypto. And it's, you know, you can buy them in blocks of 50 or something like that, so you can really feed your addiction for a long time if that's the way you are. There are FLB tokens within the game that you use, so you obviously transfer the FLB tokens and spend those on the birds, kind of similar monetization strategy that we've seen across most of the crypto games, but also through mobile titles for a long, long time. Now, each round lasts 12 hours, and you can have as many attempts as you want in those 12 hours, but at the end of those 12 hours, there's a pool of the money contributed by players who bought birds, which is then divvied up. The dividends are then divvied back up and split between those who get the highest scores in that 12 hours, which is kind of an intriguing way to use the blockchain. And again, we're all for games that are going to reward you with something for actually achieving a high score other than just achieving a high score. There's also a classic way of playing. They've also got a robot way of playing. Like you can get a robot bird, which seems to have some sort of like a AI thinking component where you train a bird by going through this thing. As you train the bird, the robot gets better, and then you let the robot go, and it gets further down the ramp each time. But the game's kind of positioned in a way that if you're really fast and you've got reflexes and everything, doing the manual option is still your best bet at a high score. But if that's not you, you can grind away teaching this AI to play like you effectively and get further along. So interesting mechanic there. I'm not sure if that will really stick, but an interesting idea nonetheless. The biggest problem with it at the moment is there's not many people playing it, so there's not much of a dividend to win. But I just think the awareness is quite low. It came out of nowhere. Flappy Birds as a brand still has plenty of cut in mainstream society. So if the word gets out about this and a few people start diving in and playing this and dropping $1 in or $2 in or whatever that, and you've got 10,000 people doing that, that's a fair decent pool getting split up between the high scores, assuming you're good enough to get a high score. I'm not. No bloody way. But that is still some big news in my opinion. Flappy Birds is back. You just didn't know about it, and nor does most of the rest of the world. But you do now. And that's the end of GxB for another fantastic week. I hope you enjoyed our news stories. I hope you come back next week. I hope you check out some of the previous episodes you may not have. Follow us and all that kind of jizz. And we'll be back next week. But before we go, we're going to leave you with some of that joyous, addictive Flappy Bird gameplay that you forgot you loved.